Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Mike Lenz VO podcast. My name is Mike Lenz. I'm an entrepreneur and a full-time professional voice actor and audiobook narrator. My goal is to share with you stories from some of the most amazing and inspiring people from all areas of the voiceover industry to help you achieve your dream of becoming a professional voice actor. So please leave me a review over on iTunes and join us over on the web at mikelenzvopodcast.com to be notified of each episode when it comes out. Now, get ready to be inspired. Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Mike Lenz VO podcast. Today's episode is sponsored by VoiceAm and the Audition Ready online course. You can head over to mikelenzvopodcast.com and click on the VoiceAm sponsor link to receive a 30-day free trial of VoiceAm. Now, that's twice as long as the usual 15-day free trial period, so you're going to want to take advantage of that. I love VoiceAm. I use it on my website. It's a fantastic marketing tool, in addition to being a great demo player, so be sure to check it out for free. Also, click on the Audition Ready online course link and enter promo code ML20, that's ML20, to receive 20% off Tim Tippett's Audition Ready online course. That's a savings of close to $100. Tim is amazingly gifted at cutting through the complicated tech side of VO and making it easy to understand. I know he's helped me incredibly in my career, and I know he can help you too. So check out both offers over at mikelenzvopodcast.com. All right, so let's get into it. On today's episode, my guest is Chris Johnson. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Chris and I connected on social media, which we're going to talk about in a little while on the show. And he's a really, really interesting guy. Has a great backstory and some other things that he's doing that are really interesting in addition to VO. But Chris, let's start by just sharing your journey with our listeners. How did you get into this voiceover industry?
Yeah, I think that I just kind of stumbled in to it by kind of chance. I was working at a digital media company and kind of a digital ad agency, and a couple times within the same week, I got asked by different people if I had ever done anything with voice acting, and it was something that had never crossed my mind at all. And but I thought it was really weird that two different people had asked me within the span of a couple of days, and so I was like, well, maybe this is something I should be looking into. And so I did a little digging, and then I found, like, in the next week or two, an introductory class at Voice Tracks West here in Los Angeles, and it was like a 4-hour intro class on a Saturday in the studio, pre-pandemic, so still in the studio,
Right.
and went there with, like, I don't know, there were maybe 8 other people in the class, and it was kind of a mixture of cold readings, receiving direction, getting some prepared copy, actually getting in the booth like it was an actual session, and getting feedback from the coach and everything. And the course was designed to just kind of, you know, give people a taste of what the industry was like. And I was hooked ever since that first class, and I just then started taking classes and workshops and started learning more and more about it after that.
Yeah, I mean, once you get that bug, it doesn't happen for everybody, but I know when I took my first voiceover class coaching session, I remember coming home and just telling my wife, like, oh my gosh, I love this. I want to be in front of a microphone. This is amazing. And, it just, if it's right for you, man, you can feel it and you know it. And, everybody's journey is just a little bit different. And I know when you and I were talking on TikTok on live, and you were talking to some folks, you were in a situation where the company you were working for, I think they either went out of business or they downsized. So it was one of those situations where you were like kind of thrown into it, kind of like, well, maybe I'll try this. Am I accurate in that? Was it kind of like that?
Yeah. So after I started taking classes for a while, I my goal was to start out part-time, and then when I was making so much money that I'd be able to quit my full-time job, then it would be just an easy transition into voiceover. And so I started kind of giving it a part-time effort at the beginning, and quickly realized that in order to kind of make it a full-time job, it was gonna take a full-time effort instead of getting home from work tired and then going through auditions until midnight every night. It just wasn't sustainable.
Right.
And so as I was mulling that over, the company that I worked for, overnight absolutely collapsed. Like, we were there one day, and then we got an email the next day that said, "Come get all your stuff. We don't exist anymore."
Wow.
And so I was like, "Okay, well, lemons into lemonade. Let's this is time to lean in to voiceover and really put my nose to the grindstone and see if I can't make this work?"
Yeah, talk about getting thrown into the fire. That
Yeah.
must have been that must have been a little bit disconcerting, I imagine, but I'm sure it did light a fire under you in terms of really ramping up the VO stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. It was disconcerting for sure. But there's no time like that present moment to be like, okay, like, what else do I have to lose at this point? Let's start rocking and rolling. And so literally, the next day I woke up and my new business was full time voiceover. 8 to 5 every day. A lot of times more,
Yeah.
and just starting to build it up from scratch, really.
And I know that when I was doing it in the margins, like you said, you're only able to give as much energy as you have left in your tank. And when I went full time about 5.5 years ago, the adage that says that, the more attention you pay to something, the more it grows. Fortunately, in my case, it was that where all of a sudden I had an entire day. Every day I could control what I did, whereas before my day was dictated to me, and for the most part. So being able to manage my day, make sure I was devoting enough time to building my business, and also devoting enough time for my own physical and mental health so that I didn't, overwhelm myself
Mhm.
was kind of a difficult transition, at least for me, because prior to that, every day was kind of, I knew exactly where I was going to be, what I was going to do, when I was going to work, when I was getting out of work. So now all of a sudden I had to self manage myself. And although that was exhilarating to be able to have that freedom, it also was at times a little stressful because now I had nobody to answer to except myself. Did you find that to be any kind of an obstacle when you were starting out, all of a sudden saying, whoa, not only do I have to really hustle to make this work, but also I'm totally in control of my day and what I do from sun up to sundown.
100%. I I kind of have a more analytical mind, and so the, like, running the business aspect of voiceover kind of satisfies that part of my brain. And so, yeah, it was very much a case of going from a scenario where I was going into an office every day, interacting with fellow coworkers, having conversations, to the sometimes very isolating job of being a voice actor where you are at home, only talking to yourself. You're responsible for everything. Every paycheck that you see, you have to grind and hustle for.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was quite a large adjustment to make. And also, other obstacles from the creative side of the brain of just having burnout at certain portions of the day, rinsing a bunch of auditions, and then just feeling creatively tapped, which was something that my old, office job never had me tapped like my brain drained in a creative way. So it was kind of making all of those adjustments at the beginning of that was certainly a challenge. And I also, as part of my origin story, I do not come from an acting background. I didn't even do theater in high school or middle school. Was never in a play. Was never did any of that stuff when I launched into my voiceover journey. And so I knew that I was going to have a large mountain to climb because,
Sure.
I gotta learn how to act. And so, that was and especially early on, one of my main focuses was to make sure that I got built a strong enough foundation for myself that I wasn't going to just stumble out of the gate and fall on my face. I wanted to give myself a fighting chance. And so, I didn't start looking for jobs until maybe 2 2 to 3 years after I took that first introductory class.
Hmm.
So, yeah, a bunch of challenges early on for sure.
Being out in LA, did you find that helpful in terms of being able to connect with other voice actors and or actors, or find those classes that you needed to take, or getting that kind of quick education in the acting world?
Yes, yes, I think the location of LA was certainly very helpful. I met some very nice people in the industry who were extremely generous with their time and meeting up for coffee and just chatting through the industry, allowing me to ask, what I thought at the time were silly questions, but essential questions to starting out the journey, and who are just lovely people, and in sharing their own experiences and perspectives on the industry. Certainly, out here you have a lot of in-person classes, and it was able to take those as well, which was great. So yeah, I think location certainly helped me out, and the voice acting industry is full of a lot of really nice and genuine people, and it really showed in those early days, which is why I try to be that to people just coming up as well, because give and give back.
Yeah, absolutely. I know Kelly Buttrick has this great analogy that she shared with me, and she's a very successful voice actor, and she was talking about the analogy of the compass. So you have
Mhm,
north, south, east, and west, and the people that are north of you are people that are further along in your journey, and you can reach out to them, and they may help you. Hopefully they will.
mhm,
Then there's the east and west, which are your peers, which are kind of walking the walk with you, and they can be helpful to you as well, and you can be supportive of them. And then there are people that are south of you, and they're not as far along in their journey, and those are the people that you can be their north to them. And I loved that analogy, and I've thought about it often and tried to incorporate that into my own journey, because all those pieces are important to the puzzle. Every single one. You're going to learn from the people that you help. You're obviously going to learn from the people that help you, and you will learn and be supportive of the people that are your peers. And if you're able to form those authentic connections, and authentic, I think, is the most important word,
mhm.
not pretend, not fake, but authentic connections with people that you can help and can help you in this industry. I would argue that that's probably the most valuable asset that you will have beyond coaching, training, and understanding the industry. So critical.
Yes, absolutely, I agree. That's a great visual too with the compass. I like that.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah,
Is that
it is.
she when she told me that, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, Kelly, I'm gonna have to steal this many, many times." She goes, "Go ahead, go ahead," because she was a north for me. She was someone who really was helpful to me, and I'll never forget that. And then when people reach out to me, I think of people like Kelly and others that help me, and it inspires me to help others. So it's kind of this beautiful cycle that just keeps refreshing itself. And in the VO industry, can't say enough about how incredibly generous all the people that are in this industry are. Just been
Absolutely,
incredible helpful. Any
absolutely.
any other obstacles that kind of pop into your head that you may have encountered that might be helpful to some of our listeners, and how you kind of got over them or through them?
I think that entering into an industry that I was not familiar with and had to learn, all the basic ins and outs on, you kind of stumble upon things as you go along, and I kind of hinted on kind of the isolation of doing doing work by yourself, talking to yourself, listening to yourself alone every day, and how that kind of can impact um, you as a person when you have a lot less human interaction than
Mhm.
you once did when you were going into an office or whatnot. So that definitely took some getting used to. Solitude's always nice on some levels, but you know when you sometimes look up after grinding away and you realize you haven't left your house in 3 days, you're like, wait a second."
Yeah.
So some of those instances were very interesting, and I also think that entering into the field, you well, I guess I did on some level was assume that there was essentially going to be like a formula, like, okay, I do this and then I do this and then I arrive here and then I do this and then it kind of, like a leveling up process. And
Mhm.
it's kind of a lot more chaotic than that
Yeah.
because
Yep.
there are ups and downs, there are you know some cycle there's some there is a cyclical nature a little bit to voice acting with, different seasons where you might be auditioning for a bunch of commercials but, there are sometimes droughts of booking that make you wanna pull your hair out, and you feel like you're not doing anything right, and you feel like you're just throwing auditions into a black hole, and in a job where you have to self-direct yourself because you don't get feedback on auditions for the vast majority of things you submit, that can kind of be unsettling. Is it something that I did? Am I doing okay and things just aren't lining up? Kind of evaluating those benchmarks on your own can be difficult, and I think that those were some of the things as I was going along that I didn't necessarily anticipate as obstacles, but I found that they were.
Yeah, I think chaotic is a perfect word to describe the VO industry because I think a lot of people, and I was one of those people 15 years ago when I started,
Mhm.
is, um, I'm not sure what to do.
Yeah.
I mean, I've gotten some training and I've got my website all created and I've got my computer and my microphone. Um, well, how do I get work? Like,
Mhm.
what do I do now? And then you just start hunting and pecking. And then as you start to pick up jobs and clients, you realize that it's not as much about hunting and pecking as it is about planting and sowing. And
Yes.
you've got to plant those seeds and you've got to make those relationships. And I know for me personally, that networking with other individuals within the industry was crucial.
Yes.
Also, reaching out to people who could hire me, as difficult as that is in the beginning, is what is was and is so important. And then as you build traction and you start to get work in the industry and people start to, find out a little bit more about who you are, then it doesn't necessarily become easier, but you do get into a rhythm, I guess, of your day. In the
Yes.
in the beginning, for somebody who's relatively new to the industry, where did you find yourself gravitating towards? Was it gravitating towards casting sites? Was it gravitating towards cold calling, cold emailing, going to networking events? Where did you kind of gravitate towards, or were you doing all of those things?
Yeah, I think I was doing a little bit of several of those things. I gravitated towards. I did join a couple of casting pay-to-play sites
Hmm.
out of the gate, and I figured with those that even if there was a struggle to book because there's just the volume of people on some of these sites is astronomical, that at least I would be getting some good auditioning practice in, and, could structure my day, a little better like that. Some casting sites, definitely direct marketing from the jump. I my old digital media gig, I was working alongside salespeople, advertising salespeople who were dealing with clients and client needs all day, every day, and so I was no stranger to y- you know client needs and reaching out to prospective clients and things like that. So I knew the importance of building those relationships, and it's also one of the things that I tell people as well is direct marketing still accounts for the largest, chunk of money that I make yearly,
Hmm.
and it is the best way to build long-term, meaningful relationships with clients, and it's it's very important to your voiceover business because so many jobs are one-off in this industry where they need a voice for this one thing, you do it, and then that's over. But forging those relationships and building those connections on an authentic human level, is what is going to help you get repeat work, what is going to help people trust that you're a professional and come back to you for multiple projects over the course of years, and is really going to help you level up in the voiceover industry for sure. So, but I think the problem that a lot of people don't necessarily anticipate is that takes time.
Time. Yeah.
And which drives me crazy when I see these ads on social media where they're like, "Want to make six figures in your pajamas? Just get a mic and talk. Open a book and start." And like, it drives me nuts
Mm,
because one, it cheapens what we do, and two, it's not that easy at all. And really, people who come into it thinking it's going to be that are in for a rude awakening because I have had several clients who my first job with them was after 3 years of sending them emails, loose contact with them, and then they had a project for me after 3 years down the line. So, it's not fun, and you don't see the immediate gratification of it, but it is 100% necessary to plant those seeds, tend to them, water them, all of that stuff.
it's a long game, and I've often said that, it's not about booking a gig or it's not about getting a job. It's about growing
Yes.
relationships with clients. And
Yes.
because you said it exactly, that you want to forge relationships with clients that would will work with you again and again and again because they can count on you because you deliver. Because when you got the opportunity, you did it. And that's the difference because time is money in this industry. And
Yes.
clients want to work with voice actors who are good at what they do and can deliver on time. And they don't have to mess around with worrying about whether they're going to be able to do the job well or not. And if you can build relationships with clients, then you will be a happy voice actor because you'll get repeat work.
Absolutely, and word of mouth referral on some of that stuff too, because the chances are that client at that video production company has other friends and connections within the video production company world, and they might hear, "Hey, I've been looking for a voice. Oh, hey, I've been working with this guy." Yeah, you never know, and
Exactly.
those being connected and having a good solid network of people, you just never know how your professional paths might cross in the future.
Yeah. The vast majority of work that I've gotten, or at least the initial work that I've gotten with clients, both in the commercial side of things and the corporate video world and
Hmm.
e-learning and also in audiobooks has been referrals
Absolutely.
from other colleagues. So that networking piece, as long as it's authentic, is crucial. So um, let's take a quick break. I know there's some other pieces of your personality that we want to dive into, and some other areas we want to explore. But we're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor, and we'll be right back in just about 2 minutes.
Bob Merkel here with a special offer for VoiceAm. Sign up for VoiceAm using promo code MikeLens and you'll get a 30-day free trial. VoiceAm's player is easy to customize and embed. Your buyers can play full demos or just the reads inside. Plus, both are downloadable, and you'll be presenting demos like a pro. Our players are designed to keep buyers listening, and that means you're getting heard and getting hired. Join the ZAM fam now and be sure to use the promo code MikeLens.
All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Chris Johnson, voice actor out in LA. You are more than just a voice actor, though, Chris. Let's talk a little bit about this other part of you that actually is a big part of who you are, and I would argue probably has influenced your voiceover career as well. You're not a bad musician, so tell us a little bit about that.
Thanks. Yeah. So before I took that initial voice acting class, I was in a band at that time, and was in a band for several years out here in LA. Lead singer. Don't play any instruments, but sing.
Well, sure,
And
your vocal instrument.
yes, exactly, exactly. And yeah, I kind of I've always enjoyed singing throughout my entire life, but I didn't really like, again, in school and whatnot, was never involved in on the singing side of things. I was always in band. I played trumpet and kind of did that side of things. But um, after I kind of moved to LA, I took some voice lessons, some singing lessons, and my coach at the time for that specifically stopped the lessons after some sessions, and he was like, "Okay, you need to stop coming to me and go be in a band. You just go be in a band." And I was like,
Wow.
"Okay." And so that's what I did. And I was with a band called Starch Monkey for several years. Original music, we kind of played around LA, like at the Whiskey A Go Go and the Viper Room. And we opened for the Yardbirds once, which was fun. And Saliva, we opened for at one point. And
Nice.
it was a lot of fun. And since those band days, the bass player and I put out an album, a side project album just before the pandemic. That's still up on Spotify, which is under the name Between the Sun. And then I've been working on a music project recently with the old drummer from that band, an album of new songs that, as of this recording, are being mastered. So hopefully
Ooh,
within the next
nice.
couple of months, we'll see the light of day finally. But yeah, music, I've always loved it. I have a very eclectic taste in it, and yeah, it is also a part of me, and I agree that it helped me with voiceover stuff as well, because I wasn't a stranger being behind a microphone, which so I never necessarily had that. A lot of people talk about that anxiety of stepping behind a mic and then like just feeling it in the pit of your stomach. I didn't have that, which
Yeah.
it was certainly helpful. And I'd been in recording booths and was kind of loosely familiar with that from the jump. So that was definitely helpful. And it also allowed me to kind of, with different phrasing of things, to hear the musicality in sentences and oddly enough, that sometimes works against me, I have found, especially in a world of very conversational, commercial, delivery and reads, sounding too sing-songy and then landing at
Mm.
the end of the sentence. Sounds polished and announcery and radio-y, and that's not what the commercial world has been for several years now. So I learned that I have to watch that actually on a lot of stuff. So, yeah, but I've done voiceover gigs where I have utilized singing. I did a couple of radio commercials for a doctor's office years ago where their whole thing was like mishearing the lyrics, and so you got to go get your ears checked. And I sang and did the voiceover in them. So it does open you up to kind of some niche voiceover jobs as well.
Yeah, I mean, and even on your website, you were able to promote that. You could say, "Look,
Exactly.
I'm a singer," and so if you need, I see auditions come across all the time that have singing component to it, and generally, I'm going to pass those over. But
Yeah.
you're not gonna. You're going to look at those and go, "Yep, I'm your guy." You
Yeah,
know?
absolutely, and I think that's a good thing for people getting into the industry. Like, what are your interests? What are your other hobbies? What are things that you can kind of connect to the voiceover world? Maybe you took a bunch of classes in college with large medical terminology. Maybe and that might make you a great fit for pronouncing medical narration. Narrations, and so tying in things that you enjoy that you are passionate about can aid you in your voiceover career, definitely.
Yeah, I always ask people when they're talking about getting into VO. I always ask them, "What career are you in right now,
Mhm,
and how can you take advantage of that?" Because I mean, I was in the pharmacy world for almost 30 years, so medical terminology is pretty comes pretty naturally to me.
mhm.
I'm not. I don't necessarily. I'm happy to do it. I don't want to put anything negative out there, but um, having been in it for 30 years, you kind of want to do other things, right? You want to be creative in other areas, but it is an advantage for me. And I do get a lot of work doing that type of read because of my experience in the pharmaceutical world and with medical terminology. So, yeah, absolutely. Your background is the perfect jumping off point in terms of getting into VO. Think about what you did or do as a career, and use that to your advantage because there's always a connection. There's always a way that you can incorporate that into what you do. Um, and you're too modest to say this, but you are a winner of an award. Tell us about the award you received musically.
Oh yeah, in 2020, I received a Male Emerging Artist Award from the Independent Singer-Songwriters Association, and yeah, that was great. That was after the Between the Sun album came out, and it was surprising, and it was great. It was great. I felt very good about that. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Was that in the midst of COVID, pre-COVID? Because it was 2020.
It was, yeah, it was in the middle of COVID. Yeah, we had kind of put up the album on Spotify in the fall of 2019, and then we had planned on, like, playing it out around LA a little bit, and then, yeah, COVID happened, and, we did not.
No, you did not.
We did not, yeah, and so, yeah, so that was in the midst of all of that fun and enjoyment, yes.
Yes, of course. Well, and I know, in the midst of the pandemic that it was very difficult for a lot of people for a lot of different reasons, obviously, on many, many different levels. But from a professional level, I found as a voice actor that, my day-to-day didn't really change that much. It was kind of those situation where, I kept doing what I was doing, which was staying home and working in my home studio.
Same.
And in fact, it got a little busier because there was some more stuff coming in that maybe you wouldn't have gotten before. But, there was clearly an interesting time, and hopefully that's all behind us. Um, I always love to hear about people's other interests because we are just such diverse people, and
Yes.
it's just fascinating to me. And as I mentioned earlier, when we were on TikTok Live, and you were telling that story about your musical career, and I'm like, wow, I never knew that about Chris. So I'm glad we had an opportunity to talk about that, and it's a perfect segue to talk about social media and
Yes.
and that aspect of our careers, which I know for me when I started, even full time 5 years ago, 5.5 years ago, certainly before that, wasn't a big part of what we were doing. I certainly knew I wanted to connect with a lot of people, and I did that on LinkedIn and social media. That was part of my just learning about the industry and talking to people that were already in the industry and familiarizing myself. But it's really evolved very quickly over the last 5 years to most voice actors that I talk to. It is an integral part of what they do to market themselves.
Yes.
And it's becoming almost, not even almost, it's becoming essential to what we do. What's been your experience overall with social media? And then we'll kick around TikTok a little bit because that's where we met.
Yeah, I fully agree that things have evolved very quickly from that standpoint because just talking about the pandemic, social media wasn't a huge part of my marketing effort. I think I had a like a voiceover Instagram and like a personal Instagram as well, but like I wasn't posting super regularly, and it seemed kind of like a chore at the time, and then like when the pandemic hit, I think Clubhouse, the app Clubhouse,
Hmm.
was a very interesting moment because it became kind of big for over the pandemic because everybody was inside, and here came this app where you could go into these different rooms and speak with each other, people of similar interests, and network, from the comfort of your own home.
Hmm.
And there were a bunch of voice actors who just dove right into Clubhouse. There were voice acting rooms on there all the time, and I met a bunch of people that I still keep in contact with through that. And then kind of TikTok over the pandemic as well started an upswing, and I thought when I first saw that, I was like, this is not for me. And then like a year after that, I was like, I think I kind of need to be on here because a lot of people are on here, and it is a good opportunity to post voiceover content, talk to people about voice acting, maybe help people who are just getting into it with my own experiences, and kind of have a presence on there. And so from there, I started posting more regularly on my voiceover Instagram, on TikTok, which I still do, and kind of made social media kind of more of a priority on the daily than I had pre-pandemic, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's become so critical. And I was talking to another fellow voice actor, and she was getting involved in audiobooks, and she had talked to me about that. And when she was getting started, and she had reached out to me, and we were talking about that process. And she was finding that she was working with some indie authors, and she was doing some royalty share work, and that she was having some of these indie authors reach out to her specifically because of her social media presence. So she had a pretty good following on Instagram and TikTok.
Hmm.
And that was an important reason why they even reached out to her in the first place. Not that she wasn't talented, because she is, but they said in addition to her talent, they wanted to be able to tap into her network, especially in the audiobook world with royalty share. You don't get paid until the book sells. So all of a sudden having a network from the narrator's perspective, now the narrator becomes kind of a co-marketer along with you, the author. Um, we always used to look at it from the other way around. You wouldn't want
Yes.
to do a royalty share book unless it was an author that had a good following, because then you knew that they were going to sell a lot of copies. All of a sudden it started working both ways, where that authors were looking for narrators that had a large following so that they could help promote the book with them. So those things have become increasingly important in terms of people choosing to work with a voice actor in different genres.
Absolutely. And I think that, on TikTok especially, I always run across audiobook narrators who are live streaming the book that they're reading, and they're recording session, and it's
Yep.
a peek behind the curtain of the process, which is great for people who are just interested in it and want to see how it's done, to the marketing aspects for the authors. Absolutely. And I eh, I've worked with an author for a couple of her books, that I met in a roundabout way through TikTok. So
Hmm.
that goes back to the you never know, you never know, as you expand your network where leads might come from. You just don't, and just being there and being a consistent presence on a platform is half the battle sometimes.
Yeah, consistency is important. And I,
Mhm.
I met a narrator who we're friends on TikTok, and I met her at a recent audiobook conference this past spring. And she said that 100% of the work that she's doing right now in her career, she's relatively new, audiobook world is from TikTok.
Yeah,
100%.
that's
She gets all the
wild.
people who watch her. She records live, and she gets a lot of followers, and authors hear her, and then indie authors reach out to her and want to work with her. So it's literally become a way to get work directly, to market yourself directly to people who will potentially hire you. It's brilliant.
Absolutely. They can see you, they can hear you, you get a good sense, like, it's for a job where we are largely audio. It's a way to showcase your talents, your interests, your hobbies. Like, you as a well-rounded voice actor and a professional voice actor, it is a great way to market yourself in front of a seemingly endlessly large audience.
Yeah, it's an ongoing audition, basically.
It
It's a
is. It,
it's a
it definitely
constant
is.
ongoing audition. So all you listening out there, if you're not active on social media, if you're not active on, you don't have to be active on every single one. You can pick and choose, and each one kind of has its own advantages and disadvantages. But I think having a presence on at least two is is important, because you do have to put yourself out there in front of people, especially to showcase your talents, and also to just network with other people that you can connect with. I mean, Chris and I wouldn't be talking on this podcast if not for TikTok. So
It's true.
that in and of itself is evident of the value of being out there on these social media platforms, for sure.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it's eh, sending emails, while one of the, I guess, least sexy ways to market yourself. While that's important, like, if I were on the receiving end and looking for professionals in the industry, and I, you know stumbled across a TikTok feed of somebody who's professional, personable, super talented. Like, that speaks volumes. That maybe a 1 minute visit to their profile on TikTok speaks more volumes than the 10 emails that I received from them that were just trying to sell me their services. So
Exactly. Critical piece.
absolutely.
Well, Chris, this has been amazing, and I do have one more question for you
Okay.
before we wrap up, which is the single piece of advice. If you were talking to an aspiring voice actor, what would that be?
Yeah, I think if I were sitting across from a brand new voice actor getting into the industry, I would first ask them, do you love to do this? Do you love to voice act? Because kind of as we hinted at, there are going to be times when booking work is sparse, and it may seem like nothing is happening despite all of your good efforts. Even if you're doing everything right, even if your auditions sound good, you're still not booking. And those times take persistence, which I sometimes argue is more important than talent in this industry during certain times. And to help get you through those times, you're gonna have to love what you're doing, because if you don't, it's gonna be even heavier. So, do you love to voice act? If you do, then I think it is so important to always be learning. Always be learning, always be evolving, always be open to getting a new perspective on yourself, on the industry. There is no silver bullet for success in this industry. Um, there isn't a finish line that you get to and you're like, "And here I am. I've made it. I did all those things." It is a constant process, and always maybe it's coaching with somebody new, so you can get a piece of advice that was presented to you in a different way that changes your outlook on acting. Just always be learning in this industry. Always be a sponge and just soak it all up. And there are so many resources these days, free resources, free that I wish that I had when I walked into that studio and took that class, a decade ago. And great groups of women in voiceover is a great group run by Tanya Pasek, and discords that just have loads of free information from professional voice actors who are literally saying, join this and ask me whatever you want. Like, what a good resource. So take advantage of all of those things, and just always be learning and evolving.
I love that. I love that piece of advice because it's so important. You have to realize that this is an investment. If you
Yes.
want to get into VO, you're going to have to invest resources to be competitive, because especially in the world of AI that's here, not
Hmm.
looming, it's here. Um, as my friend Tom Deere, who was a recent guest, said, you know, the way to compete against AI is to get better,
Yes.
be a better voice actor. And because, AI is going to affect the industry to a certain extent. There's going to be, it already has. The people that are really, really good at this craft are going to be the ones that are going to do okay, because they're going to continue to bring value. So you can't get into this if you're not willing to commit to being as good as you can be.
That's absolutely right. And authentically so, because, with the AI piece of it, like, authentic human connection to a script, in a delivery, in a performance, like, that is going to, in my opinion, continue to win out, even through this wave of AI is gonna take all of our jobs scariness. The human element is what is going to keep those performances alive, and our ability as voice actors to connect with the audience, for whether it's corporate video or in animation or whatever. Being able to do that is going to resonate with an audience, and it's going to be the secret sauce to continue to move forward in this industry.
Yep, couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more. So before we wrap up, where can people find you?
Sure. My website is vocalcj.com. I am vocalcj on TikTok. I am vocalcj1 on Instagram, and those are probably the best ways to find me. You can find me on LinkedIn too, but you can probably just do that through the other means because Chris Johnson is a very common name.
Somewhat common. And I know you're in LA, but you must have come from Cincinnati.
I did come from Cincinnati. I did. I grew up, born and raised in Cincinnati. There were 3 other Chris Johnsons in my high school. I'm not kidding.
I believe it. I believe
Yeah.
it. I think the Bengals are a big part of your life.
The
from what I
Bengals,
gathered.
yes, and oddly enough, the Reds, who are at the time of this taping still fighting for a playoff spot. You can point at me and laugh at me later when this comes out, and they did not make the playoffs.
The big red machine is back.
Well, we're getting there.
Yeah, you're getting there. You're getting there. It's fun. It's fun to watch, though. It's fun
It
to
is.
watch. Well, good luck to Cincy. I'm a big fan of Burrow, and I think they're a heck of a team. So
It's an exciting time. It really is, which is something I haven't been able to say for the majority of my Bengal-loving life.
yep. I imagine you must be enjoying this. That's for sure.
For sure.
It's been a long time coming. So listen, Chris, thanks so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your journey with my listeners. I really appreciate it, and I wish you continued success on your journey.
I appreciate it, Mike. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me today on the Mike Lenz VO podcast. Head on over to MikeLenzVOpodcast.com for links and recaps of each show. Catch you next time on the Mike Lenz VO podcast.